Comedy, as we all know, is subjective. What one person finds hilarious, someone else might find to be in poor taste. This is especially true with insult comics. The difference between punching up and punching down can affect what kind of audience you're targeting. Sure, you're offending a certain group or a specific person, but hey, the audience is laughing. It's not like they're gonna come after me for simply making a joke. But what happens when that sort of joke goes too far, to the point where the original party has to step in and attempt damage control? In the late 2000s, such an incident took place when an internet content maker found themselves in the sights of a major corporation who didn't exactly like the jokes that were being hurled their way. What exactly happened here? Why did this company intervene the way they did? Was the hate overblown or justified? Let's open wide and say ah as we examine the curious case of Dr. Rabbit. In order to talk about Dr. Rabbit, we first need to talk about what Dr. Rabbit is just a small facet of: the ongoing effort to teach kids about good dental hygiene and the commercialization of toothpaste. The advent of toothpaste commercials is almost as old as television itself. The 1950s saw a plethora of ads from the likes of Crest, Colgate, keep an eye on them, and Ipana. Ipana was the one to beat because of its inclusion of a mascot character, Bucky Beaver, to help market toothpaste to children and parents. Voiced by Jimmy Dodd, the MC on the original Mickey Mouse Club, Bucky Beaver would effortlessly defeat Mr. Decay Germ with the power of Ipana toothpaste.
It's Decay Germ, and he's headed this way.
I'm gonna make cavities in everybody's teeth. Now, Beaver, I'm gonna blast holes in your teeth. Ipana!
New Ipana knocks out Decay Germ's best of all eating brands, including fluoride toothpaste.
While Crest and Colgate would have animated commercials of their own, Ipana's commercials were in a league of their own. Animation duties were in the hands of David Hilberman, a former Disney artist who did art direction for Bambi, uncredited work on a handful of Looney Tunes shorts, including the ever-popular Rabbit of Seville, and layout art for He-Man and She-Ra. Bucky's jingle, "Brusha, brusha, brusha, get the new Ipana," would see a boost in popularity when it was featured in the 1978 film adaptation of Grease.
Brusha, 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 here's the new Ipana with a brand new flavor. It's dandy for your teeth.
Brusha, 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 knocks out decay germs fast. Fast! Faster, sure, all right!
Around the same time as Grease, Crest found themselves tapping into a similar well with a series of commercials featuring art from Marvel artist Herb Trimp about golem-like creatures called cavity creeps, attempting to destroy the city of Toothopolis. The city's defenders, known as the Crest Team, would fight off the creeps with oversized toothbrushes and, of course, Crest toothpaste. Each commercial would end with the Crest Team telling the kids watching to watch treats and see their dentist so they could fight cavities just like the Crest Team. Although Bucky Beaver and the Crest Team are well remembered by those who grew up with them, they were just commercials. They never strayed outside of that commercial space to do more than just advertise. One company sought to go beyond just simple toothpaste advertisements. That company was Colgate, and in 1991, they would launch one of the biggest efforts to enforce oral hygiene among kids. And they'd attack it directly at the source: underprivileged communities. Untreated decay can cause pain and infection that may lead to difficulty eating, speaking, socializing, and sleeping, and to poor overall health. Dental problems also negatively affect school attendance and performance. That quote is from Dr. Marcia Butler, Colgate's vice president and the one that spearheaded this particular campaign. She knew that kids from underprivileged urban and rural communities would suffer if they didn't get proper dental care. Something had to be done. If these kids couldn't get to a dentist's office, Colgate would bring the dentist's office to the kids. Dubbed Bright Smiles, Bright Futures, or BSBF, the program would teach kids about oral hygiene through a few different methods. The first was through school curriculum. BSBF would give out educational kits for teachers to use in classrooms, including supplemental materials, games, and, as we'll find out is most important, videos. The second method was perhaps the most ambitious: the mobile dental office. Giant vans retrofitted with dental equipment would travel to schools, churches, and community groups like Boys and Girls Clubs and offer free teeth cleaning, referrals, and dental education to kids. Bright Smiles, Bright Futures would start out in 2 cities as a sort of test run: Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Oakland, California. Over the years, the program would begin to reach other major cities across the US, including Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York City. During these early years, Colgate realized that they needed a mascot that would appeal to kids of all ages. Someone that would show them that their dentist wasn't someone to be afraid of. And that mascot would come in the form of Wiggly Tooth.
I just lost a tooth. It fell out today, but I know I'll get another one, so it's okay. When I smile, I see this face in the middle of my face.
Yeah, it might come as a bit of a surprise to the uninitiated that Dr. Rabbit wasn't Colgate's first choice for their mascot. Debuting in 1991 alongside the creation of BSBF, The Adventures of Wiggly Tooth is about just that: a loose tooth owned by a little girl named Julia.
Ah, I love it when Julia plays with me, rocking back and forth. Rocking back and forth? Am I the first to go? Why me? My first wiggly tooth. Wow.
Okay, the title here is a bit misleading. Despite being called The Adventures of Wiggly Tooth, the titular tooth actually takes a back seat to what takes up a majority of this tape: live-action footage. We get interviews with kids talking about them losing baby teeth, montages of kids smiling and brushing their teeth over teeth-related songs, and a roughly 3-minute segment of a dental checkup.
Dad.
Why are you putting on the mask?
Well, this is my Halloween mask. No, just kidding. This is a mask that I wear so that I can protect your sister from my germs and I can protect myself from hers. It's a safety feature, okay? So I put on my mask and I do my gloves the same way for the exact same reason. And I'm gonna get my mirror and I want you to open for me. The things we're gonna do with your sister today is we're gonna put some fluoride on her teeth.
What ride?
Well, that's fluoride. Fluoride is something that will help make your teeth stronger. Then you won't get cavities on those teeth, okay?
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna apply some of this fluoride on your teeth, and when I put this on your teeth, it just has to sit there for a while. And we're gonna take it out now. Just open gently. Here we go. That's a big girl. You did a fine job. Now, I don't want you to rinse for about a half an hour, okay?
Okay.
Now, for being such a wonderful patient, I'm going to give you a toothbrush. And this toothbrush, I want you to make sure you use it every night before you go to bed and every morning, okay? All right.
Thank you.
Now, can I have a checkup?
Of course you can.
The animated segments only really appear at the beginning and end of the tape. It gives off a feeling that this sort of thing belongs more on something like Sesame Street. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that was the case. The producer and director for this tape, Diego Echeverria and Ozzy Alfonso, respectively, both worked for the Children's Television Workshop, most notably CTW's science-oriented show 321 Contact. Animation duties were handled by John Paratore, who would later direct a handful of episodes of Doug, Beavis and Butthead Do America, Sheep in the Big City, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Saturday TV Funhouse for SNL. Wiggly Tooth was a serviceable first step for Colgate's new program. While the various interviews with kids and the full dental checkup served a purpose for those watching, live-action segments would quickly be phased out over time as Colgate would find themselves with a new mascot. A mascot that would prove to be much more effective. The history of Dr. Rabbit goes back a lot farther than you'd think. Most sources online that try to chronicle Dr. Rabbit with even a hint of seriousness will pin his origin here in 1994, with his debut video, Dr. Rabbit and the Incredible Ride. And yes, it is true that this was his first major appearance. His first major appearance in the United States. For his first appearance ever, we'll need to go back to 1979 in Colombia.
La División Educacional de Colgate-Palmolive, Colombia, presenta los consejos del Dr. Muelitas sobre la salud dental.
Hola, amiguitos. Soy el Dr. Muelitas, un conejito muy inteligente, porque mis dientes siempre mantengo con buena crema cepillados y donde el dentista revisados. ¿Quieren verlos? Aquí están.
Los Consejos del Dr. Muelitas, or The Advice of Dr. Muelitas, is a 9-minute animated short commissioned by Colgate to teach kids about how to take care of their teeth. The one in charge of animation was the late Nelson Ramirez, a Colombian animator who did a lot of commercial work for the country from the late 1960s to the early 1990s. Ramirez was a widely respected figure in the country's animation field, being the one to bring Alias 3D modeling software to the country. In 1980, Colgate and Ramirez would take Dr. Muelitas and translate and redub the short into other countries, including France as Dr. Kinnot, Germany as Dr. Nabel, and the Middle East as Dr. Sninatin.
مرحبا يا أطفال، أنا الدكتور سنينات، أرنب شديد الذكاء.
1989 saw a new iteration of the character in Brazil named Dr. Dentuso, animated by Daniel Macias and heavily inspired by Roger Rabbit. With a popular character in Colgate's backlog for a little over a decade, why did it take so long for him to make his debut in the US? I don't have concrete evidence, but I do have a theory. Wiggly Tooth was fine as a one-off, but long-term, it wouldn't last. If BSBF wanted to continue well into the 21st century, they would need a proper mascot that could act as the face of the campaign. I personally believe Marcia Butler looked into Colgate's international advertising, found Dr. Muelitas, and figured he was just the right candidate for the job. And you could tell that Colgate was ready to roll out the red carpet for this rabbit here in the US. Not only did he get a book and cassette tape, which gave him a new backstory, he was also to star in BSBF's newest video, Dr. Rabbit and the Incredible Ride.
Katie? Here. Bart? Right here, teacher.
It happened the day we went to the amusement park. We had been on the rides all morning, and now it was time for lunch, and our teacher was counting heads.
Our protagonist this time around is Sylvia, a typical girl out on a class field trip to the Santa Monica Pier. While her class breaks for lunch, she happens to glance over at a funhouse where she catches a glimpse of a cartoon rabbit wearing dental gear. I guess calling Sylvia Alice would have been a bit too on the nose. Followed close behind by some of her fellow classmates, Sylvia enters the funhouse and they all instinctively seat themselves on the ride, which magically starts up and pushes them out of the station. One tunnel later, and the kids discover they're now animated, much to their amusement. It's here where the rabbit makes himself known to the kids, introducing himself as Dr. Rabbit. Almost immediately, Dr. Rabbit begins singing about his profession as a dentist.
I am a special kind of doctor. Can you guess what I do? Well, I'll give you a clue. I take care of things, it's true, that help you smile and talk and chew.
Dr. Rabbit is voiced here by Marty Nelson. Nelson was one of the founding members of the jazz vocal group The Manhattan Transfer before becoming a jingle composer for the likes of Coca-Cola and McDonald's. He was also a background vocalist for the likes of Frank Sinatra and Rankin-Bass. Notably their last stop-motion project, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. Nelson's most recent endeavor at the time was voice acting and vocal work for the 1992 Bill Plimpton film, The Tune.
Past gentle valleys where cool breezes blow, you'll find rosy gardens where happiness grows. Happiness everywhere.
Nelson is still active to this day, having released a digital album in 2021 called Time Comes, Time Goes.
Lead with palms open, show you got no scars. Listen, these streets don't roll just for anyone.
At the end of the song, one of the kids, named David, ends up getting kidnapped by what Dr. Rabbit calls the acid monsters, giant buildups of plaque. So Dr. Rabbit and the kids set off to save David and defeat these acid monsters with the power of musical numbers about brushing teeth. Incredible Ride is a decent, if a bit flawed, first act for Dr. Rabbit. Unlike Wigglytooth, the live-action segments are the bookends instead of the other way around, giving the animated segment a much longer runtime. Ozzy Alfonso and Diego Echeverria return as writer, director, and producer, respectively, while the animated portions were handled by Walbercy Ribas Carmago, a Brazilian animator mostly known for trippy commercials and a 1989 animated adaptation of the Mormon book The Story of the Other Wise Man by Henry Van Dyke. Also on animation duties was Start Desenhos Animados, or Start Anima as they call themselves now, an animation studio based in Sao Paulo, mostly focused on commercials for Brazil, including other big names like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Kellogg's, and Nestle. The musical numbers, while great and show off Nelson's singing abilities, feel pretty cramped and tad arbitrary. The main plot of trying to save David's teeth gets resolved relatively quickly. With the video's runtime being roughly 13.5 minutes long, this is to be expected. Any sort of plot in these videos is going to wrap up pretty fast, but exactly how long that takes will vary. In spite of these shortcomings, the animation was still good, Nelson clearly has fun with the role, and the tips Dr. Rabbit gives out are still relevant as ever. All in all, Incredible Ride was definitely a step in the right direction.
Hello there! I am Dr. Rabbit, the world's only rabbit dentist.
As the 90s went on, Bright Smiles, Bright Futures found themselves evolving past their original goal of simply treating underprivileged kids in areas where dental care was lacking in the US. Almost around the same time as Dr. Rabbit's American debut, Colgate began taking BSBF to other countries, starting with Mexico in 1993. Soon, BSBF found themselves in places like India, South Africa, and Romania. As of 2022, Colgate has reached roughly 80 countries through the program and over 1 billion kids serviced. With Colgate now globetrotting with their newest mission, it would only make sense for Dr. Rabbit to go globetrotting as well. This is Dr. Rabbit's World Tour.
I am about to embark on a most thrilling adventure. Dr. Rabbit's Bright Smiles World Tour!
Equipped with a hot air balloon and a plethora of dental tools, Dr. Rabbit is planning to visit countries around the world to teach them to... Yeah, he's just emulating what BSBF was doing around this time, in a not-so-subtle way of promoting it. Marty Nelson returns as the voice of Dr. Rabbit, who is now the main character of the video. No more live-action kids taking the spotlight. The Doctor is the star this time around. Another interesting note is how more pronounced he is. In Incredible Ride, Dr. Rabbit was treated as a sort of entity the kids encounter, with Sylvia wondering if their time spent with him was just a dream. Here, Dr. Rabbit is real, and he's got the DDS to prove it. The plot, if you can call it that, is just about as razor-thin as Incredible Ride. Each country, or rather continent, Dr. Rabbit and the kids visit are simply new set pieces for dental tips and musical numbers. Europe is about eating habits, Africa is about brushes, Asia is about fluoride, you get the idea. Almost everything taught in Incredible Ride is repeated here, sometimes almost word for word. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, as we'll see later on. We do get at least one new addition in the form of mouthguard information, something Colgate likely picked up from fellow dental advertising mascot Dudley the Dinosaur from the American Dental Association. As it stands, World Tour is without a doubt the most well-remembered video for reasons we'll discuss further down the line. But for all the hubbub this video gets, this is what people get so worked up over? It's an inoffensive video that's just about as long as Incredible Ride. If anything, the musical numbers are more evenly paced and don't take up that much time. That being said, however, they are a bit of a downgrade. While I appreciate how some try to theme themselves around the continent they're on in the instrument department, the lyrics definitely take a bit of a hit.
Brush in the morning and brush at night. Brush every tooth and brush it right. If you want to keep plaque away, you've got to brush your teeth at least twice a day. Brush at least twice a day.
Brush with fluoride toothpaste and keep plaque away.
When your smile is bright,
You feel your spirits soar.
There's nothing you can't do. You want to brush some more.
bright smile will make the world a brighter place.
Bright smiles.
So put a smile on your face.
Bright smiles
will make the world a brighter place.
Incredible Ride's lyrics were done by Tish Rabe, a prolific children's author and songwriter that notably took over writing Dr. Seuss books after Seuss's death. Here, the duties lie with Richard Berg, who only had 3 other composing credits to his name. The Fox Cub House, a preschool anthology show on Fox Kids, and 2 direct-to-video musicals based on a certain franchise that was slowly waning in popularity around this time. Stop me if you've heard of these songs before.
Gotta get a gift, gotta get a gift, gotta get a gift, gotta get a gift, gotta get a gift for Splinter. Don't talk to strangers. Use the code word, it's easy to do.
Yeah, quite the downgrade. The writing, directing, and producing roles have now been passed on to Jay Bacall and Lloyd Goldfine. Bacall's most prominent work prior to this was serving as creative director for shows based on Hasbro's 3 main franchises: My Little Pony, Transformers, and G.I. Joe. Other credits include Jem and the Holograms, Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars, and The Tick. Goldfine, on the other hand, became much more prolific post-World Tour. He was a writer for the English dub of Yu-Gi-Oh!, penned the screenplay for Pyramid of Light, acted as a producer for the Viva Pinata cartoon, and developed the 2013 Max Steel series, based on the Mattel toy line of the same name. However, Goldfine's most well-known credit is serving as the guy who would bring a certain franchise back after a huge lull in popularity. Yes, Goldfine is the one to thank for developing the 2003 iteration of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Somehow, beyond all logic, Dr. Rabbit's World Tour acts as a weird stopgap between 2 iterations of a franchise it has nothing to do with. Research for these videos can be fun sometimes. Meanwhile, the animation was now the responsibility of ACOM, a South Korean studio mostly known for overseas services on the likes of The Simpsons, Arthur, Tiny Toons, and Batman the Animated Series. With a more professional team working with Colgate, it was apparent that Dr. Rabbit was definitely working out with audiences. Much like World Tour itself, Dr. Rabbit was leaving a much bigger impact than his foreign beginnings. While there was a bit of an effort to keep Dr. Muelitas around, the American Dr. Rabbit would eventually become the de facto look worldwide. With special promotions and even costume appearances now a reality, Colgate had nowhere else to go but up. Right?
Dr. Rabbit is coming to our school today. He's here to help our bright smile stay that way. Dr. Rabbit is a dentist and he's so much fun. He just can't wait to meet everyone.
As mentioned previously, one of BSBF's goals was to teach good dental practices in a school curriculum. Sure, videos were cool and all, especially since that means teachers could just veg out at their desks for about 15 minutes. But you know what would be even better? Live appearances. While a Dr. Rabbit mascot suit would be part of the BSBF package should you request Colgate services, sometimes that just wasn't in the cards. Maybe the venue doesn't have someone that fits the suit, or maybe you're afraid the suit would make some kids cry. So, why not meet somewhere halfway? Kids like puppet shows, right?
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Alphabetty. I'm excited about my visit today. As you could guess, I love the alphabet. That's why my friends call me Alphabetty.
Filmed at Head Start Bloomingdale in New York City, Dr. Rabbit Comes to School is... well, okay, look, I'm gonna be honest. It feels a bit wrong to talk about this in a critical manner. It's a puppet show meant for preschoolers. Being critical about something like this at my age is like critiquing a local elementary school production of Peter Pan as if you were channeling your inner Roger Ebert. You just don't do that. Okay, I'll at least give a rundown of what happens. Singer-songwriter Imani Coppola is Alphabetty, and alongside Dr. Rabbit and, oh Jesus Christ, Dugan the dog, they sing songs and use the alphabet to teach all of the kids watching to be super duper brushing champions. That's it. That's literally it. That's the synopsis right there. 10 minutes of that. Do I really need to dissect this thing any further? Okay, behind the scenes only, but that's it. Got it? Marty Nelson returns once more as Dr. Rabbit, while Dugan is actually performed by Pamela Lewis, who was Wigglytooth all the way back in 1991.
With all this attention, you'd think Julia has always been very fond of me. Ha! I got news for you. There were times she didn't even know I existed. How can I help you, Dr. Rabbit?
Well, my new friends and I would like you to help us learn how to brush our teeth for a bright smile.
So to see these two voices working together is kinda cool, I guess. The puppeteers for this production all have interesting histories. Dr. Rabbit was puppeteered by two people, Jill Kyle Keith and Ryan Bunch. Jill Kyle Keith runs a puppet studio in Baltimore called Beale Street Puppets, which has been running since 1998, and is still running to this day. Ryan Bunch, however, is a musicologist that studies the works of musical theater, especially those targeted at families. He's contributed to countless publications about the topic, including, but not limited to, the Routledge International Handbook of Children, Adolescents, and Media, the Oxford Handbook of Children's Film, Children, Childhood, and Musical Theater, Adapting the Wizard of Oz, musical versions from Baum to MGM and beyond, iBroadway, musical theater in the digital age, and fan phenomenon, Disney. Also, he dabbles in puppetry. Dugan's puppeteer, Danielle Ash, is a full-blown, award-winning stop-motion animator, known for experimenting with recycled and scrap materials in her projects. Her biggest claim to fame is the 2020 film The Girl with the Rivet Gun, a documentary that mixes her stop-motion animation with interviews of women who entered the workplace during World War II. Other projects of hers include Bartender's Tale, Pickles for Nickels, and even a short featured on Sesame Street. We've come full circle. Sadly, this would be the final outing for Marty Nelson as Dr. Rabbit. It would also be the final time this specific iteration of Dr. Rabbit would be seen as well, at least in the US. The character was fast approaching his 10th anniversary in the States, and to celebrate such a milestone, the good doctor was due for a little makeover. Redesigning a character can be a bit of a gamble, especially when said character has been around long enough. In the case of Dr. Rabbit, changing him up almost seemed a bit necessary, as he wasn't the only dental mascot in town. The aforementioned Dudley the Dinosaur had been going strong since 1990, 4 years before Dr. Rabbit's debut in the US, and a year before Wigglytooth. Colgate's main rival, Crest, however, released Gina the Giraffe's Tremendous Tooth Adventure in 1997, a more obvious effort in following Colgate's footsteps. However, Gina only ever had one video to her name. Nevertheless, it was time for a change, and that change would be complete with Dr. Rabbit's next outing, Dr. Rabbit and the Legend of the Tooth Kingdom.
You've done a really great job of keeping your teeth and gums healthy between your regular checkups, Anna.
Thanks, Dr. Rabbit.
It's a typical day as usual for Dr. Rabbit and his new fellow dentist, Dr. Brushwell, with a group of kids visiting for a routine checkup. Yes, right off the bat, we're introduced to a new character that will be a permanent fixture from here on out. The discussion in the room about the typical dental tips we've heard multiple times at this point reminds Dr. Rabbit of a story, which the two then read to the kids. The Tooth Kingdom is under attack by a sorcerer known as Placula and his plaque monsters. The queen of this kingdom tasks her royal dentists, with the help of some squires, with defeating this threat to the kingdom by, you guessed it, using good dental hygiene. That's not to say it'll be a cakewalk though, as Placula's minions won't go down without a fight. Animation duties this time around were handled by Toon Makers, a company that supplies animation services to multiple clients. These include such shows as American Tail 5 Goes West, The Pink Panther, Saban's Adventures of Oliver Twist, and films like The Pagemaster, Fern Gully, and Don Bluth's Thumbelina. However, Toon Makers is perhaps most known as the ones behind the infamous live-action/animated Sailor Moon pilot. The director of Tooth Kingdom under Toon Makers was one Larry Whitaker. Whitaker's animated work includes Space Jam, Quest for Camelot, Little Mermaid 2, Peter Pan 2, and the Larry Boy cartoon, of which he provided a handful of voices for.
Hey, Larry Boy, wanna smell my flower?
Wow, I like to smell flowers.
Way to go, Larry Boy. Once again, you've saved the day.
Whitaker also provided the voice of Dr. Rabbit this time around, giving a much more subdued performance than his predecessor.
This is the Magic Lantern. Its light helps us see invisible plaque.
Okay, come on guys, let's get up there.
You children stay here, while Dr. Brushwell and I have a look up ahead. You never know where Sorcerer Placula and his gooey goons might be hiding.
Dr. Brushwell, meanwhile, was voiced by Dina Sherman, whose roles included Carbine from Biker Mice from Mars, Yachiru from Bleach, and Diona from Genshin Impact.
Good. Then look around and get yourself comfortable, old-timer. Because you don't leave this room till I have a new regenerator in my hands.
The kingdom will no longer have healthy teeth and gums, and no more happy smiles.
Unfortunately, those are the only two actors credited. The original story is credited to Carter Crocker, a writer for Disney shows like Darkwing Duck, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Tailspin, and Goof Troop. Other writing credits include RoboCop Alpha Commando, Clifford the Big Red Dog, and just a bunch of Barney material. Lastly, the music was handled by Andrew Mooson, one of the composers for the English dub of Digimon. You can't make this stuff up, I swear. I'll be honest. Tooth Kingdom is probably my favorite video of the bunch. It's one of the better looking productions, the musical numbers are short but sweet, and Dr. Rabbit's redesign is probably the best he's looked from here on out. The more muted fur color, the gray hair and cheek fur, and the more cartoonish design makes it my favorite look.
To help keep your teeth strong and free of cavities, use your toothbrush and use your head. Brush with fluoride toothpaste at least twice a day, after breakfast and right before bed. Brush 'em, brush 'em. If you wanna keep 'em healthy, brush 'em.
The plot is a bit more pronounced this time around. The previous two outings had less going on, with more simplistic excuse plots to drive them forward. While Tooth Kingdom has a similar setup, it's given a more grandiose feeling not only through the first musical number, but with the first real major threat seen so far. Placula and his minions are the first proper antagonists for this series, something we'll see more of going forward. While they're easily defeated with brushing, there's a part near the end where Placula actually traps the group and it's played for suspense. They're only able to save themselves with some floss one of the kids wrapped around themselves due to some oversized clothing getting in the way. Having a Dr. Rabbit short where he's not completely perfect at everything he does? Color me impressed. Unfortunately, this would be the only outing for Whitaker as Dr. Rabbit, something that will become the new status quo. Nelson voicing the rabbit multiple times is the exception, not the rule, as the dentist will find himself with a new voice in each video. But that's not the only thing Colgate has to contend with, as trouble was on the horizon. Colgate was about to meet their worst enemy, YouTubers. A year after Legend of the Tooth Kingdom's release, a new website would take the fledgling internet by storm: YouTube. I'll spare you the history of the site, but all you need to know is that one of the earliest YouTube trends is what is known as the YouTube poop.
YouTube poop. Where there's smoke, they pinch back.
To make a long story short, YouTube poops were video remixes that used a variety of sources to create neo-Dada-esque works that would get certain reactions out of their audiences. Typical YouTube poop sources included the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and most famously, The Legend of Zelda CDI games and Hotel Mario. But as it would come to pass, one of the biggest faces of the YouTube poop would be Dr. Rabbit, specifically his World Tour incarnation. And boy, were people not kind to him. According to YouTube Poop archives, the first instance of Dr. Rabbit being featured prominently was allegedly sometime between late 2006 and early 2007 by a YouTuber who went by Nick Shorts. Nick Shorts would strike first blood with at least two videos: Dr. Rabbit's early brushing obsession and Dr. Rabbit's disturbing advice.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no! No, 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 no.
While early brushing obsession is pretty basic in terms of YouTube poop editing, disturbing advice is what kickstarted the trend of portraying Dr. Rabbit as, well, a pervert.
Gently move it up and down the side of your ass. Open wide.
While Nick Shorts was ultimately the one who started the trend, he's not the one that made Dr. Rabbit popular, quote-unquote. That credit went to an individual by the name of Nicholas Wallstrom, or as he was more commonly known as, Walrus Guy. Walrus Guy's first Dr. Rabbit YouTube poop was uploaded on August 30th, 2007, called Dr. Rabbit is Racist.
I am Dr. Rabbit, the world's only rabbit. Rabbit! I am going to shag you.
Really? Will you teach me about bright smiles too?
No, 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 no. No, you're a Negro. In addition to brushing and flossing, another very good way to help protect your permanent teeth is with semen.
Hey, what's going on?
Did you know you neighbors are the bad guys in America?
Really?
While this content warning is surprisingly welcome for 2007, yeah, this definitely wouldn't fly regardless today. So it shouldn't be that surprising that Colgate absolutely hated these videos. So they did what anyone would do in their situation: have the videos removed for copyright infringement. You were calling the mascot of an international goodwill campaign aimed at kids a racist. What did you think was gonna happen? To my collective knowledge, this was the first real time YouTube poops were targeted by the original copyright holders, something that would become more and more common over time. Because of this, viewers were unbelievably pissed that Walrus Guy's Dr. Rabbit content had been scrubbed. Some even assumed Colgate had filed a defamation lawsuit against the guy, which, to my knowledge, never happened. Nevertheless, the YouTube community had found an enemy in Colgate, and considering these were a bunch of kids and teenagers, they did what kids and teenagers did best: childish retaliation. The YouTube poop community went complete scorched earth on Dr. Rabbit, making as many YouTube poops with him as possible and plastering him with the most heinous crimes and labels they could think of. Before you knew it, the community viewed Dr. Rabbit not only as a racist, but a rapist, pedophile, dictator, abuser, and murderer. Because Colgate was simply protecting their IP, Dr. Rabbit was now considered worse than Hitler. I don't think I need to state the obvious as to why Colgate chose to do this. Dr. Rabbit is their intellectual property, so they have every legal right to take down videos. But I think the real reason why Colgate chose to go about this route is because of how vital Dr. Rabbit was to BSBF at this point. Any sort of negative attention like this could have unraveled all the hard work and goodwill Colgate had built up over a decade. I'm not saying these YouTube poops were trying to, I can't believe I have to say this, cancel Dr. Rabbit, but Colgate definitely didn't want them taking eyes off of their mission. Like, as I'm recording this, if you Google Dr. Rabbit right now, the results you'll get are as follows: a link to the TV Tropes page on him, followed by a Know Your Meme article, and finally a link to a supplementary comic on Colgate's website. Not really good for your mascot to be known more for old shitposts than actually helping kids learn about dental hygiene. With arguably even more eyes on him now than ever, Colgate would have to kick things up a notch in order to keep themselves focused. And for them, that meant business as usual.
Hey, Emily. Emily, I'm right here.
Dr. Rabbit, is that you?
Making an animated short, no matter the length, is a long process. Conceptions, scripting, casting and vocal directing, storyboarding, the whole process takes a lot of time and effort. And sometimes, you don't want to go all the way. Sometimes, you just want to make a quick little animation that's short, sweet, and to the point. After 3 animated Dr. Rabbit projects that clocked in over 10 minutes, Colgate decided that for their next video, less is more. This is how to have a bright smile.
I see you're all ready for bed, but didn't you forget to do something very important tonight?
I don't think so.
Little Emily has just gotten herself comfortable in bed when a voice calls out to her. It's her Dr. Rabbit stuffed animal, which comes to life to make sure she properly brushes her teeth before bed. And that's it. That's all there is to this one. This video, clocking in at just under 5 minutes when you take out the credits, is the most rudimentary and basic of Dr. Rabbit videos so far. It strips everything down to the main essentials, which is talking about proper teeth brushing, this time in a more intricate step-by-step fashion.
Step 1. Brush the outside of each tooth. Place the toothbrush at an angle along the outer gum line. Then start brushing with a gentle wiggling motion back and forth on each tooth. By brushing this way, you can remove that harmful plaque. As you brush, slowly work your way around your mouth, making sure to brush each tooth thoroughly as you go. You're doing great so far.
Writing and directing duties were handled by Tom and Joe Constantini, co-founders of 2 Animators LLC, an indie studio that provided animation for the likes of NTV's Football U, Pokemon Learning League, Emo Dad, and College Humor. Bizarrely, this is the only Dr. Rabbit short without a proper voice credit for the Doctor himself. If I had to make a guess, it was probably one of the Constantinis. How to have a bright smile is harmless. It teaches how to brush your teeth quickly and easily, the cutout picture book style is aesthetically pleasing, and the lone musical number is as simple as a little jingle. And sometimes, that's all you need.
Every time you eat a snack, plaque attacks your teeth.
As the 2000s were coming to a close, Colgate found themselves in a strange position. On the one hand, Bright Smiles, Bright Futures was still riding high. But on the other hand, their mascot had gotten into the hands of some internet denizens who were more than willing to ignore the rabbit's history just so they could make some jokes that you could only make in the 2000s. But with the new decade comes the opportunity for another freshening up. Dr. Rabbit was about to get another redesign. But would lightning strike twice?
Welcome to Tooth City! Meet 5 of Tooth City's shiniest citizens, the Tooth Defenders!
I think it's reasonably safe to say that Colgate really started taking note of what was popular once they hit the 21st century. Goes to School was riding on the trend of interactive preschool shows, Legend of the Tooth Kingdom was in production as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy ended on a high note, and Colgate's next animated venture would see Dr. Rabbit take on the sudden revival of the superhero genre with the MCU. This is Dr. Rabbit and the Tooth Defenders.
Well, Pearl, if we use all the tools we have, fluoride toothpaste, floss, and toothbrushes that we replace regularly...
Doctor, don't forget regular trips to the dentist.
Right you are, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Why, Doctor?
Doctor? Doctor? Oh, Doctor. 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 Just a couple of doctors.
In this outing, Dr. Rabbit and Dr. Brushwell head up a team of dental-themed superheroes called the Tooth Defenders, who defend Tooth City, aka Some Kid's Mouth, aka a lawsuit from Crest waiting to happen, from the evil Placulus and his black monsters. Floss, the Brush, the toothpaste duo, and their dog, Super Chompers, get a message from Placulus about his latest attempt at wreaking havoc on the city, leading to... okay, we've done this sort of plot multiple times now, and it's starting to get a bit stale. Can't we...
My sweet star! Sticky sweets and soda, I'm brilliant, a tooth decay genius!
Okay, step in the right direction. Having a brief period where all hope seems lost is a good way to mount some tension. But then you remember this is supposed to be educational, and you notice just how much time is left, and my suspension of disbelief is instantly shattered. Also, thanks for giving Dr. Rabbit a crucifixion shot. You have all the subtlety of Zack Snyder. With all hope lost, Super Chompers flies out of the kid's mouth and non-verbally tells him to stop eating candy, leading to Placulus getting evicted from reality with some brushing, and the team giving the kid one last musical number, finally ending on a cliffhanger with Placulus that will never come. Okay, what the fresh hell was that? Yeah, if Legend of the Tooth Kingdom was my favorite, Tooth Defenders was my least favorite. While I appreciate the bigger stakes, this whole thing just reeks of pandering. Case in point, Dr. Rabbit rapping.
Come on, give good oral health a try, and you'll dazzle them all with a brilliant smile. Let me tell you a little secret that you should know. Healthy teeth and gums will keep you healthy from head to toe.
I beg for the sweet sound of Marty Nelson singing. The art style feels like the animation team was trying to emulate Word Girl, the concept of a living city inside a human body feels like a retread of Osmosis Jones, and the character designs. Hoo boy, the character designs! Super Chompers becomes a paralysis demon whenever he looks straight forward, the toothpaste duo look like discount inklings from Splatoon, and dear God, Dr. Rabbit, what did they do to you? The cartoony redesign of Tooth Kingdom has been replaced with a realistic, anthropomorphic look that just feels like it was made by someone Colgate found on Fur Affinity. I feel uncomfortable. About the only good thing I can say about this is Placulus and his goons have decent enough designs, and his musical number ain't half bad.
My plaque will consume, and cavities will loom. There'll be nothing to see but decay and doom. Please don't brush or floss, so I can spread my decay. That's what I call a fabulous day.
Especially after...
Come on, give good oral health a try.
Yeah, that. The writers obviously found themselves trapped under the old adage of putting more effort into the villains than the heroes. The Tooth Defenders themselves are just bland kids spouting the same old dental tips. Dr. Rabbit and Dr. Brushwell don't nearly have the same amount of energy as previous specials, and I swear some of the line reads were first takes.
Looks like they could use some help from the Dynamic Dentists!
If we do all that, we should be able to keep those nasty black monsters from taking over good old Tooth City.
Despite me not liking this one, I can't take it out on the individuals who worked on it. They were just doing their job under contract. Both Flickr Lab and Matley Productions were in charge this time around. Flickr Lab is yet another animation studio that mostly does services for clients. These include animated segments in Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine, episodes of Stephen Colbert's Tech Jansen shorts for the Colbert Report, and a commercial for the Virginia State Lottery that starred the Pink Panther. Matley Productions is a production collective that does music videos, viral ads, short documentaries, and promotions for non-profit organizations. Dr. Rabbit's voice this time around was performed by Paul Bellantoni, who has since expanded his credentials to commercials, audiobooks, video games, and even musicals.
What makes a nutcase a nutcase? Crunchy pecans, vanilla ganache, gooey caramel goodness, delusions of grandeur, tendency to exaggerate.
His most notable contribution is in the English dub of the Hungarian animated crime drama Ruben Brandt, Collector.
Is he one of yours? Nah, his father, Gerhardt, used to work for the company. We worked on subliminal programming together, which focused on experiments with 16mm film.
Placulus was played by Alan Enlow, an actor who started out voice acting under the pseudonym Big Al on things like Cartoon Network's Big Bag, MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch, and the I Spy series. He was also the Joker once.
Hello, darling. So glad you could make it. Where have you been all my life?
I know you weren't behind all this, Joker.
His most recent acting credit is Burrell Underwood in Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song.
Go ahead, Leisha. Run and serve the prince like you always do. If you'll excuse me, I have bigger fish to fry.
I won't bother you any longer.
That's an excellent idea.
Other members of the cast include Rebecca Solar, Sam Haft, and Emlyn Morinelli. Tooth Defenders was not good. And it seems I wasn't the only one to think so. But despite that, for whatever reason, the Dr. Rabbit videos just stopped. The only new material out of Dr. Rabbit were in the supplemental materials, specifically a few pieces of reading material like a comic and a picture book. I'm not exactly sure why production on new Dr. Rabbit videos ended, but if I had to harbor a theory, I think Colgate was just burnt out. These things took a lot of time and effort, and having them come out every 3 or 4 years since 1991 had to have taken a toll on the higher-ups. The new decade also saw a decline in YouTube poops as more and more copyright holders began taking them down, so the era of Dr. Rabbit as a YouTube poop fixture was coming to a close. But that's not to say Dr. Rabbit was truly out of the limelight. Colgate still used him through the 2010s. Bright Smiles, Bright Futures was doing business as usual, while Dr. Rabbit continued to make appearances at live events. It was like a little mini hiatus for everyone involved. As the 2010s continued, it seemed like Dr. Rabbit videos were finally a thing of the past. But after a decade of mostly silence, the 2020s were fast approaching, and much like the Time Lords of Gallifrey, it was time for Dr. Rabbit to regenerate once more.
It's impossible. Beyond all known laws of the universe.
Maybe even the universe can't bear to be without the Doctor.
If you can hear me, the Molar system is under attack. We need your help. The fate of the Molar system rests in your...
You represent the best the galaxy has to offer. I'm Dr. Rabbit. We were able to fight off the Duke of Decay, but he'll be back. Next time, we won't be able to stop him alone. The Duke of Decay is sneaky. Trust me.
So, this is Dr. Rabbit's new team. They don't stand a chance. Who wants to hang out with those two when you can live the sweet life with me?
2020. The year everyone was forced to stay home, not touch faces, and wear masks. Because of this, Bright Smiles, Bright Futures saw a small retooling. The vans might have been benched and school closings prevented Colgate from visiting, but that didn't mean they were down for the count. BSBF entered cyberspace through virtual classroom presentations, and the teams in charge of the vans gave positive encouragement through the Twitter account. In June of 2020, the vans were repurposed to get 25 million bars of soap to the same underprivileged areas they have been visiting time and time again.
While we normally would be able to go out with our dental vans and conduct dental screenings and provide dental education, and we know that we can't do that during this time, what we do is we have decided to work with our partners to provide these products to needy families and to make sure that the hygiene and health products are in the hands of the vulnerable population during this time.
Colgate-Palmolive, the company is repurposing its fleet of mobile dental vans to feed kids across the country and donate essentials.
They have been to many cities, including New York, Miami, and Chicago.
And they're working with Feeding America to distribute school lunches and hygiene products to help slow the spread of COVID-19.
Colgate has donated $8 million worth of products that include soap, body wash, as well as toothpaste and toothbrushes for adults and kids. Thank you so much.
Finally, on November 10th, Colgate released the first new Dr. Rabbit video in 8 years. Adventures in the Molar System.
You can do this. Answer the call. Oh my stars! Chompers, wait!
Wilder, come in. We don't have a second to snooze.
Preteen Wilder receives an emergency transmission from Dr. Rabbit, off in the Molar System, which is currently under attack. After a bit of musical pressuring from her stuffed animals, Wilder answers the call and, alongside her dog Chompers, they seriously brought back the dog? Joins Dr. Rabbit, Dr. Brushwell, and some of the best kids in the galaxy as they get ready to battle the Duke of Decay, and okay, you get the gist. Adventures in the Molar System is the same song and dance we've seen in past videos, now with a fresh coat of sci-fi paint. All of the tips we've come to know have now been given new fancy sci-fi phrasings.
If you want to defeat decay, you need to make sure your equipment is working properly. This is powerful stuff, Deb. A squirt the size of a pea should do it.
Squish, no!
But that doesn't mean you should write it off completely. It's more a case of, you know the drill, so just enjoy the ride. Albeit a bit of a bumpy one. Our antagonist, the Duke of Decay, barely gets enough screen time to make himself come off as a credible threat. We get a small little musical number with him, and then it's right back to our protagonists.
Have a nibble, make it double. You can eat away your troubles. Have a giant scoop of junk, 'cause it's the sweet life.
When it comes time to actually do battle, it's pretty one-sided, the kids making quick work of him and his giant gumdrop henchmen. Both Tooth Kingdom and Tooth Defenders actually give ample time to make their antagonists come off as competent and actually show them getting the upper hand on Dr. Rabbit and the kids at least once. No such thing happens here. Adventures in the Molar system only runs 9 minutes with credits, much shorter than either video, which really highlights just how precious that extra runtime can be. As such, it's one of the weaker Dr. Rabbit entries, but far from the worst. This one just needed a little more time in the oven. Alright, time to address the elephant in the room. Yes, this has a bean mouth style. I know everyone and their grandmother are sick of the look. But please, 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 do not hold that against the animators who worked on this, Lobo. Lobo's body of work mostly exists in the realm of advertising, with a handful of short films here and there. Lobo seems especially honored that Colgate chose them to help give Dr. Rabbit his most latest redesign. Their website even shows off a bunch of concept art for the short, highlighting various concepts for said redesign, some of them even suggesting that the short was going to be more fantasy-driven than sci-fi. Seeing all of this concept art, I just can't get mad at them. The production side of things fell in the hands of Hecho Studios. I hope I pronounced that right. A Californian production company that has worked on campaigns for the likes of NFL, CBS, Universal Studios, and Activision. Nothing too fancy to mention outside of that. Voice acting-wise, Dr. Rabbit this time is portrayed by Mark Atherley, known for his voice as Jean-Pierre Polnareff in the 2003 iteration of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a handful of characters in Puyo Pop Fever, and, most recently, the Game Master in Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden.
Allow me to welcome you to the world of Voice of Cards. You're about to step into the shoes of the hero of this tale as he sets forth on a grand adventure. Said adventure takes place in a remote part of the sea, in which ancient traditions are alive and well.
But for me, he will always be rookie Acme agent Shadow Hawkins in the Treasures of Knowledge era of Carmen Sandiego.
Agents Jules Argent and Shadow Hawkins, come in, Chief. We think we spotted Carmen Sandiego's helicopter over Mombasa. She may have been here. Any chance of getting some backup to trace that helicopter?
Cole, are you there? Answer me.
I'm here.
I'm glad you're okay, kid.
Thanks. But I think I lost her.
She didn't leave a clue?
No.
Sorry, didn't have time for a clue. You really are quite persistent, aren't you?
Wilder, meanwhile, was portrayed by Lindsay Hahn, most known for playing Hadley Hale on True Blood and Marie Bach in the Disney Channel original movie The Color of Friendship. The Duke of Decay's voice actor, Tim Davis, is a professional singer that has done vocal work for a lot of Ryan Murphy productions, including Glee, American Horror Story, The Politician, and 911. Other singing roles include films such as The Princess and the Frog, Dr. Sleep, Muppets Most Wanted, and The Sing Duology, TV shows like The Goldbergs, America's Got Talent, Paul Rudish's Mickey Mouse Shorts, and Agent Carter, and even big-name events like the Super Bowl, the Grammys, and the People's Choice Awards. Probably the most impressive resume out of the entire cast of any of these productions. And that's where Dr. Rabbit's story ends for the time being. If there's one word I could use to describe all of these shorts, no matter what my personal take is on each of them, it would be inoffensive. These are simple, inoffensive shorts geared towards kids to get them to brush their teeth regularly, and they succeeded with flying colors. Bright Smiles, Bright Futures wouldn't be the massive success it is today if they didn't. I haven't been in the target audience for these things since I was like 7, and I never encountered any of the Dr. Rabbit shorts growing up. I hung out with Dudley the most by proxy of commercial breaks. But as an adult outsider looking in, I can appreciate the consistency of the dental advice, the different themes and scenarios each video takes, and I can even respect the time and effort each team put forth to bring these videos to life. Most importantly, I can admire one woman's desires to make sure kids from around the world, no matter how rich or poor they are, no matter what country they're from, know how to brush their teeth and avoid needlessly expensive dental bills for easily preventative tooth diseases. But none of that matters if the internet still likes calling this rabbit a pedophile. Let's put together the truth of what happened here. In 1991, Colgate launched a monumental campaign to address the lack of dental education geared towards kids in underdeveloped and rural areas of the US. Dubbed Bright Smiles, Bright Futures, Colgate would send mobile dental vans across the country to provide dental care and advice to those kids. In need of a mascot for the campaign, Marsha Butler found one in the hands of a rabbit dentist made for overseas markets and started commissioning animated videos to act as a promotional piece. The plan worked, and, over the next decade, saw the campaign go global. However, as the internet era began, Colgate found themselves on the receiving end of an onslaught of people who manipulated their videos to make Dr. Rabbit do and say a number of heinous acts. Despite Colgate's attempts to keep those people at bay, Dr. Rabbit's name was now permanently besmirched. The internet now only knows him by the heinous characterizations these people made back in the mid-2000s, not as the mascot that's helping over 1 billion kids worldwide fight tooth decay. Those YouTube poops made long ago were a double-edged sword. Yes, the videos were practically dripping with vitriol over what happened with Walrus Guy, but it arguably gave Dr. Rabbit the biggest boost of attention by those unfamiliar with them. It gave Dr. Rabbit a lot more eyes that Colgate only wished they could have done themselves. It just had the unfortunate caveat of those eyes being more open to mockery than admiration. And as mentioned previously, it's something that Dr. Rabbit just hasn't been able to shake off. Even after YouTube poops have become a relic of YouTube past, the characterization of worse than Hitler still rings true in the internet's eyes. But in spite of that, Colgate has maintained Dr. Rabbit's popularity by doing the one thing one should do with slander thrown your way. Deal with it privately, ignore it publicly. I don't care what your stance is. Colgate had every right to issue takedown requests. It's their property, and they can be as protective of their property as they see fit. But you know what Colgate didn't do? Make a scene out of it. They didn't immediately hound the story out to news outlets or try painting themselves as victims in press releases. They silently dealt with the issue and moved on, acting like nothing happened. And in the grand scheme of things, they succeeded. YouTube poops have mostly gone the way of the dodo, while Bright Smiles, Bright Futures, and Dr. Rabbit continue on to this very day. And you know what? I'm thankful for that. And for those that still like mocking Dr. Rabbit all those years later, it's the 2020s now. We live in the age of the Me Too movement, and guess what? The joke's not funny anymore. So show some fucking respect.
based surveillance facilities have confirmed the existence of a 100-meter-wide near-Earth
People are
object.
gathering in underground stations. The advice seems to be that if you can't get out of town, then get as deep underground as possible.
Anytime now, we should see the first signs of the meteor entering the atmosphere.
Before I end things off, my proposition to you, Colgate, for the next Dr. Rabbit video, you have so many iterations of the character now, both domestic and international, so why not bring them all together for a Spider-Verse style team-up? Maybe you've got a plaque outbreak that's too big for one Dr. Rabbit to solve, so the Molar System era Dr. Rabbit pulls the other Dr. Rabbits through dimensional wormholes so they can all work together. I'm free to help to write this thing, Colgate. Hire me.